Romans readers, chapter 6. Here's where we are. Apparently, we had sinned. In Adam, all had become disobedient. But that led to the king. So man had become disobedient. So the king decided, well, then I will become a man, so that man might be obedient. And man, through me, might be made righteous. So Paul's opponents are looking at him going, okay, is this what you're saying? Are you saying if our sin led to the king coming to save us, then, Paul, apparently, sinning is good? Paul addresses this right in verse 1. What shall we say then? Are we to continue in sin that grace may abound? Paul's imagining then he's arguing with somebody, which he probably really did. He had gotten into debates over and over and over again, which is why he knew the arguments so well inside and out. He says this again over here in verse 15. What then? Are we to sin because we are not under law but under grace? Both times he says, by no means. And again, by no means. Paul's opponents were suggesting, okay, apparently, Paul, here's how your gospel works. Man screws up, man sins, and then things get better. So then, if we continue to sin, according to your gospel, Paul, your fluffy, happy, rainbow time gospel, we can just live some goofball life where we don't need the law. We can just sin all we want, and apparently things just get better. Apparently, not only did they get better, the king himself comes down, becomes a man, and saves us. Happy Jesus time, everybody. Indulge in sin. Paul just wanted to put the brakes on that right away. By no means. So, if he's going to say that, if he's going to say, nah, that's not what I'm saying, by no means am I saying this, okay, and then his opponents could go, well then, what is the guarantee that Christians won't do that? That is, take advantage of grace, take advantage of the fact that they're apparently not under the law anymore. So what is the guarantee that Christians won't take advantage of all that stuff? Death. Paul mentions death over and over and over in this chapter. In a mere 23 verses, he mentions the word death or died. In 23 verses, he mentions it 18 times. The guarantee that Christians won't be morons and sin so that they can say, oh, well, Jesus is just going to be better to us. The guarantee is that they've died. That is, in baptism, you are united with Jesus into his death. You've been killed with Christ. For if we have been united with him in a death like his, we shall certainly be united with him in a resurrection like his. Paul's point here is, if you have died, if your old, foolish, goofball self has died, the self that wanted to indulge in sin, if that person has died in baptism, being joined to Christ, well, now, what are you now? You are a new creature. You're living a new life, a new resurrected life where you don't want to do those things. You don't need the law anymore because you don't want to live like that. You don't want to steal. You don't want to rob. You don't want to take advantage of people. You don't want to do that. You're living a new life. It's almost as if you're beginning to live just like Christ's body was new after the resurrection, a new heavenly body. So you, being joined to Christ, are already experiencing some sort of heavenly, you're not perfect, but you're experiencing some sort of heavenly newness. So then, towards the end of the chapter, Paul says this. So now present your members as slaves to righteousness leading to sanctification. Look at that word. Slaves. And a Christian say, yes, I'll gladly be a slave. Why would you gladly be a slave? Apparently, didn't the king set you free from the law? Aren't you set free from sin and now you're going to be a slave again? We say, who are we a slave to now? To the king. Yes, we'll gladly be a slave, for we know what our king did for us. So we would gladly be a slave. So our members, our instruments, our mind, our hands, our eyes, mouths, all of those things are slaves no longer to sin, but to righteousness. Romans chapter 7 tomorrow.